How to install OnlyOffice 7.5 on Pop! OS Linux 22.04. Okay, let's get started. Hi, I'm Paul, and I am the lead research technician here at the How to Linux Research Labs, and I am also the administrator of the Pop! OS Linux Facebook group on Facebook. Okay, like I said, I'm going to show you how to install OpenOffice Office Suite 7.5 on Pop! OS 22.04. Okay, now you ask, what is OpenOffice? Well, in a nutshell, OpenOffice is a popular choice in the FOSS community, free and open source community. Yeah, it's an open source alternative to Microsoft's Office, and it stands out because it provides plenty of useful features in a compact package. The download file is only about 300 megabytes, and with that you get, according to their documentation, there's 4 editors. Now, I've installed it before and I only counted 3. Now, they claim that they have a PDF editor, so we'll see if that actually is going to be installed the way I'm going to show you how to install it. Otherwise, for sure, I know there's a Word editor, a document editor like, Word in Microsoft Office. There's a spreadsheet editor, for Excel spreadsheets, and there's a presentation editor, which would be probably equivalent of like PowerPoint. So those 3 editors for sure I know we're going to get. Their documentation does say PDF editor, so let's see if that actually gets installed. Okay. Now this is the cross-platform, suite, so it can run on Mac, Windows, and Linux. So it's cross-platform in that respect. And obviously we're going to install the Linux desktop version. Okay. Now there's a handful of ways of installing it. There's the 3 kind of main, if not the only, distro agnostic installer methods that I know of that are, that exist in the Linux landscape these days, and that's snaps, snap packages, flat packs, and app images. Or you can compile it from source, or you can go to their OnlyOffice page, onlyoffice.com website, download the standalone deb file and use, let's use apt to install it that way. Now the problem with that is that that's probably a good way of doing it. I know I've done it with apt and it installed it properly. I do believe all the dependencies were resolved. And the downside of that is that as OnlyOffice releases new versions, then you have to always download a new deb file. Now I don't know if you have to purge what's already installed and then install it from the new deb file, or if the new deb file will just overwrite and update the in-place installation. But it could add a little bit more work to your workflow, so you have to stop and download the deb file and install it. Now I'm going to add it. I'm going to install OnlyOffice via their official repository, and that repository is going to host the deb file. So by doing it that way, by adding their official repository to your repo list, whenever you run the standard sudo apt update upgrade command in Ubuntu Debian-based systems, if there's a new version there or a patch or whatnot, it'll just pull it in, and you can just update your system in one swoop without having to keep track of new versions or whatever. Everything will be kept track for you by virtue of adding the repo to your repo list. Okay, so we're going to go that route there. Again, you can do the standalone deb version, and that's good, but I would recommend doing it the way I'm going to show you with OnlyOffice's official repo package file. Their official repo, and then the .deb package that they have in that repo. So it'll be a deb file, but it'll be linked to the repo, so it'll automatically update. You don't got to do everything manually as new versions come out. Okay, so here's my pop installation here, and now This is the kind of program you're not going to find. I don't think you're going to find it. Okay, here's my Neofetch here. So I'm verifying that I'm actually in a pop session. 2204. Okay, good. So I'll clear on that. Now, I did find it in the pop shop, and it's a flat pack. Okay, let me go ahead and bear with me for a second while pop shop loads it up real quick here. Actually, I can come back to that. Now, I don't think it's... I already kind of checked that whether it was in the pop repos, and I don't believe it's there. I'm just going to go ahead and search for OnlyOffice. So I'm not really quite sure what else it would come up as. It might come up as actually possibly desktop editors. I think that's kind of their command line way of OnlyOffice desktop editors. So let's see what that brings up here, if that installs it this way. Sudo apt install OnlyOffice desktop editors. Okay, let's see if this finds it this way. Okay, it did find it. But you can see here, it's not in the pop repos, but it's telling you can use snap. Okay, we're not going to use snap. Otherwise, we can't find it. It's not in the pop repos, so we can't use the pop repos anyway. And I wouldn't recommend that anyway because it's probably going to be a couple of ticks behind. And when actually I find it here, OnlyOffice, I find it here in the pop shop, and it's a flat pack, and it's a couple ticks behind. 7.4, and we're installing 7.5. So not only is it a tick behind, but it's a flat pack, which could be problematic in its own right. But if you feel like you want to use flat packs, let's go ahead. You can choose the single user installation here, or the system-wide installation here. Otherwise, I'm going to go ahead and just skip that. Okay, and we're just going to install it from OnlyOffice's official repository. Okay, so everything's going to be done in the terminal here. First, let me show you that it's not actually installed. Then once we're done, we'll come back here and we'll see that it actually has been added. Kind of scroll down to the O's here. LMNO. So yeah, you see it'll be in this section down in this area here. And OP. So it'll be here once we're done. Okay, so you see it's not there. So once we install it, we'll try to spot it there and install it, launch it that way. And there's also a way of launching it from the terminal. Okay, good. So we're all ready to go ahead and get into the first step. And the first step of installing OnlyOffice from their repo is to add a GPG key. That stands for New Privacy Guard. So we're going to go ahead and add the key. And we're back with the first step. Okay, the first step that we have to take in order to add the key is we're going to make a directory called new PG, and it's going to have these default privileges here: RWX for the user owner, and then 0 and 0 for the group and for the other. So the first set is RWX for user, and then the other two sets for a group and other. Those sets have no permissions at all. Okay, so let's go ahead and use the make dir command to make that directory, and let's go ahead and spot it. It should be a dot file, a dot folder, so it'll be hidden. So if I don't use ls, if I use just ls, I probably won't see it, and I don't see it there. Okay, and then if I go ahead and do an ls and I add the A flag, then it should show it. Okay, here it is. Here's the folder that we just created here. Folder directory, whatever, okay? So this is where we're going to store the key. Okay? And then go ahead and clear on that. And back with the second step. Okay, now I went ahead and seeded into that folder that we just created, new PG. I don't know if you have to actually be in there to add the key, but probably if you CD into it, you're covering yourself. So try it both ways. I do believe if you're in it, you should be okay. If you're not, it might not work. I'm not sure. So I'm going to go ahead and do it this way, where I CD into that folder, and let's see if the key actually gets stored here. Okay, so there's a bunch of, it's got some pad stuff here, and it's going to get the key from that server, and it's going to put the keys into this folder, essentially. Okay, so that folder is empty as of right now. So let's see what happens after we key this in to add the key to that folder. Okay, now we're still okay. That looks like it went through pretty good there. Okay, so we'll clear on that, and then we'll see what's in here. Okay, so these weren't in there before. I don't believe, because I don't think when we created it, we just all we added was the default permissions. So this is what was just added right now. So we're okay here. So the keys have been added to our system, and we can move on to the next step. And the next step, as far as adding the GPG key. Okay, the third step is that we're going to use the chmod command, and we're going to change the permissions for the key that was stored in this path here. Okay, so it's going to add these permissions here. So for the first set, which is the user, it's going to have read and, let's see, that would be read and write, but no execute, 4 and 2. So that's read and write, and then only read and read for group and other. So no one's got, I guess you don't probably need executable permissions. That's why they weren't even granted for the first set here. Otherwise, read and write, and then read and read. Okay, for that key file. So we'll enter on that, and it changes the permissions there. Okay, and we can move on to the next step. Okay, the fourth step in adding the key is changing the ownership on that key file, and we're going to change it. Probably right now it's at user. So my name is Paul, so it would be Paul and Paul. So we're going to change the ownership to root and root. The root user and the root group will be the owner of that file. Probably at this point it would be the regular user, Paul. So it would be Paul and Paul. So we're going to change it to root and root for the ownership. Okay, good. And then back with the next step. Okay, then the last step in adding the GPG key is this right here, where we're going to move that key file from that path here to this path here. Okay? Now I don't think it's going to leave a copy of it here. It's going to move it from here to here. So it's not going to leave a copy. It'll move it from here to here, and it'll only live here once we're done. Okay, so go ahead and key that in, and we're going to move this from here, from this path here to this path here. So we're going to move the key. Okay? Okay, it's been moved, and that's it for adding the key. So the next step is that we can go ahead and add the desktop editor's repository. Okay, so we're ready to go ahead and add the desktop editor's repository for OnlyOffice. Now I CD'd back to the user folder here. So you can see I'm in the root of the user folder here. Okay, and we're going to add that repo. Now first we're going to check the repo manager in PopShop. You can do that from here. System software sources here. This is the GUI repo manager for Pop! OS. You can also go into the file manager GUI and/or the command line and find the sources list that way. But let's just go ahead and just use the GUI for this right now. Same thing pretty much. Instead of looking at a text file or using a cat command to dump the contents of that file to our terminal, we're just going to go ahead and do the GUI, use the GUI repo manager. So extra sources here, and then once we're done, we'll verify that the OnlyOffice repo has been installed. Okay, as you can see right here, right now, there's no entry for OnlyOffice. So once we're done, we'll come back and we'll verify that that repo has been added to our sources list, so APT can go ahead and install from there. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and minimize that. We'll come back to that in a minute. Right now, we're going to go ahead and add the repo to our repo list. This is going to echo some stuff out to the screen here, and it's going to use the key, and it's going to download. It's going to download the deb file from their from the OnlyOffice. Actually at this point it's going to add the repo, and the Debian file lives here. So, and then it's going to tee that into another path here. Looks like it's going to tee it into the sources list file here. So it's going to take the repo, and it's going to add it here to the sources list file, and then we can check it with the repo manager once it's been added. So we're going to go ahead and enter on that, and that was pretty quick. Okay, so the repo has been added. Let's go ahead and clear on that, and then go back to the pop shop in the repo manager. Repo man here, repo manager. Okay, and we didn't even really have to restart or refresh anything. It just kind of adds it in place. As you can see here, this wasn't here before, right? OnlyOffice. Okay, so this has been added to our repo list, and APT will pull from here each time. It'll pull from there to install it initially, and then every time OnlyOffice adds a new patch or a version, it'll pull it from here. This is really the best way to add a program, okay? And at this point, the repo has been added, but APT doesn't know about it. It doesn't know it exists, actually. So we have to go ahead and update the APT manager cache so APT can actually be aware of it and pull from it. So back with that command. Okay, here's the command that we're going to use. We don't have to do upgrade, because at this point we're not upgrading the system. We're just going to update the APT package manager cache so it becomes aware of that repo and it can pull from it. Okay, so just your basic APT get update command here. So once you key that in, go ahead and enter on that, and once it's done, APT will become aware that that repo exists. Okay, let's go ahead and try to spot it here real quick. Okay, here it is here. Not only has it been added, but now APT knows that it exists and it can work with it. OnlyOffice here. Okay, good. And there's a couple other entries here as well. This is probably for 32-bit systems. This is for x64 systems, and this is where the Debian file lives here. So depending on what your processor is, your bitage, it'll use one of these here, and it'll support whatever deb file has been downloaded for whatever more than likely you're going to be in a 64-bit system anyway. Okay, so we're good there, and we're all staged up to go ahead and install OnlyOffice. And we'll clear on that, and back with one of the final steps. Okay, here we go. The big payoff here. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and use this command here, sudo apt get install, and we're gonna the command to. You think that it might just be OnlyOffice, but it's actually, according to their documentation, it's actually OnlyOffice desktop editors. So again, sometimes people get caught in that trap where they don't really know what command to use, and they kind of use only the name that they're familiar with. So it would be OnlyOffice. They wouldn't think about what are the variations or switches or dashes or whatever to add, and whatever other characters to add. So this is according to our documentation, this is the actual command to use to install their suite. Okay, so OnlyOffice dash desktop editors. So once we key that in, we'll enter on that, and APT will download and install OnlyOffice. And it's going to be a bit, so back when it's done, we can see here it's downloading properly, and back when it's installed. Okay, that took a few minutes, not too bad. But as you can see, everything went through okay. Just kind of there's a lot of output here, but you essentially get the you get the idea that everything downloaded and installed properly. Okay, no errors here. All right, so we can go ahead and clear on that. And now it's time to launch OnlyOffice and see what's going on. Okay, so two ways of launching. First is from the application folder here. And it's right there. Okay, yeah, I'm already there. I don't have to scroll down. We're already at the OnlyOffice section entry here. Okay, that wasn't there before, right? So, looks good. Got the icons and everything. Confidence is high that it's going to launch and everything should be okay. Now, this looks good. And the version is what I expected, 7.5. Okay, great. That's pretty much about it. You can see the launchers here. Now, like I said, their documentation says that they have a PDF editor. I don't see it here, so I need to do some research on that end of things. Otherwise, you see the three main ones here. The word processor, the spreadsheet, Excel, you know, in Microsoft it would be Excel. Here it's a spreadsheet, but here's your spreadsheet editor here. And your presentation, like I guess their equivalent of Word would be a PowerPoint. Okay, so we got these three main ones here. Okay, it's kind of different from what I expected. Like I want like standalone launchers for each one rather than having them all launch in the same window. So, like I said, this is my first time using OnlyOffice. So I don't know if this is the best way or the only way. Certainly it isn't the way I would like to have things. I like to have each in its own window. But they seem to only have one launcher here. So I need to do some puttering around with this, and you can too. But for the most part, OnlyOffice has been installed, and we launched it from the GUI that way. And then there's one more way of launching it. Do I want to close? Yes. Okay. Back to the terminal here. And the command to launch it from the terminal would be this one right here. Desktop. See, I typed in E, nothing. I tabbed it, nothing. S, and it fills in the rest of it. So I think it's going to be okay for finding the rest. And a dash, and I'll type in an E, and I'll hit the tab again. And a D, no. Actually, I'm sorry. There's no dash there. Okay, so no dash, but put in the. Okay, there we go. I don't know why I didn't just do the whole thing. I guess desktop is a word of its own, and it doesn't really recognize the editor part unless you put the E in there first, and then tab it, auto-complete the rest of it. So desktop editors is the command to use to launch it from the terminal. Now, I would always launch it from the GUI. That's always the best. And I would only launch it from the terminal here. I mean, from the application folder. That's Plan A. Plan B would always be the command line in case there's a problem with launching it from the GUI. That way, if there's any problems with launching or using it, you can come here and get some information that will be outputted to the screen that might help you debug launch and or usage problems. So we'll key on that, and same thing. Okay, great. Now these two processes live together. If you kill the front end here, it'll kill the process in the back in the terminal, and vice versa. If you Control Z out of here, it'll freeze or kill the front end part of it here. So these have to live together, and you have to dedicate a terminal window and at least one tab to this process. So I can clutter things up. I would just launch it from the application folder. But if you have problems, launch it from the command line. And if there's any problems, you can hopefully use some of the output during the launch attempt to debug. Or if it launches and then you're having trouble using it, things that are going on, whatever clicks you make, whatever system calls or whatever happens under the hood, will be reflected in the terminal here, and you can also use that output to possibly debug performance issues as well. But I would use the GUI launcher as Plan A, and this would be Plan B. And then here it is right here, and it's the same thing, version 7.5. Okay, so that was how to install OnlyOffice and then launch it from the GUI and from the terminal. Okay? Now this is a little bit, since I killed the front end, the back end gets frozen, so I need to go ahead and kill that manually. Go back, same thing if I had killed the process in the back end with Control Z, then the front end would have either gone away or frozen up as well. So they have to live together. Just keep that in mind. Okay? So that was it. That was how to install OnlyOffice, the OnlyOffice Office Suite on Pop! OS Linux 22.04 via their official repo and with the dev file that the repo is hosting, and then use add it to your sources. Add the repo to your sources list. Update your apt cache. Use apt to install it, and then once it was installed, we launched it two ways. One by the GUI application method here, the GUI from application folder here, and from the terminal with that desktop editor's command. Okay, so that was how to install OnlyOffice Office Suite on Pop! OS Linux 22.04. Okay, so I am Paul, and I am the lead research technician here at the How to Linux Research Labs, and I'm also the administrator of the Pop! OS Linux Facebook group on Facebook, and I'll put the link in the description so you can join if you'd like. And at this point, I want to thank you for subscribing and watching, and I look forward to your comments and your feedback. And if you have any requests for videos, leave them in the comment section. And until my next video, I thank you for watching, and I want to thank you for watching, and then we'll see you on my next video. Thank you. Bye-bye.